Hello and welcome. In this episode, I will be speaking to a medical patient that was arrested for their seemingly legal conduct within the state of Illinois. Folks, this is among the number of cases that I have heard of where people are continuing to be criminalized for their possession, use, or cultivation of the cannabis plant, despite the fact that cannabis is supposedly legal in this state. Folks, I'm gathering these stories and I'm trying to put them all together on one page. If you go to thecolememo.com/is it legal, you will see the beginning of this project right now at the time of this recording, which is February 20th, 2024. The page is relatively slim with not much content. I'm displaying it right now. It only has the information about the story we're going to be talking about today and Christian Reichert, which is a story that we've talked about in the past. I will be adding more cases to this page. And the reason I'm announcing this is to let you know that if you've been affected by the continued criminalization of cannabis, please reach out. I'd love to feature your story, even if it was anonymously. We do not have to feature your voice, picture, or real name, although that would be preferred. If you are willing to share your story, because the continued criminalization of cannabis is occurring in the state of Illinois, if you'd like to share your story with how you've been affected by that, please reach out to me. You can go to thecolememo.com/contact to reach out, or you can reach out to us through any of our social media handles, folks. This is the Cole Memo. I'm your host, Cole Preston. Every episode is released in audio, video, and transcript formats. To find the audio, video, or transcript version of any episode, please refer to the description of the episode that you're listening to. Within that description, you'll find a link that will take you to our website, which will display the transcript for this episode and the platforms where you can find this episode in audio or video formats. If you're unable to locate the episode description on whichever platform you're listening from, simply note the episode number and visit thecolememo.com. From there, you can find the corresponding episode, and then you'll be able to access the audio, video, and transcript version of the episode. You might also find any links that we reference during the episode so that you might be able to do your own research. Folks, when you go to thecolememo.com, I rolled out a new search feature. So if you're looking for episode 50, for example, just type in 50 into the search bar and it should pull the episode for you. It should pull that episode up for you. If you're not listening to this episode of the Cole Memo on Patreon, then you're listening to this episode later than our patrons. To become a patron, go to thecolememo.com/Patreon. It's a great way to support our show, but one of the best ways to support our show is absolutely free. Subscribe to or follow our show. Leave us a positive review from wherever you're listening to us from. Favorite this episode. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment or post a review. Reviews are very helpful. Your engagement and support is appreciated. Enjoy this episode of The Cole Memo. Well, thanks for hopping on such short notice, impromptu.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I just got home from work.
Well, I'd love to have you introduce yourself before you tell us about the shitty experience you went through with the state of Illinois and being a victim to the continued criminalization of cannabis. But before we do that, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and if you want to plug your stuff you do online, feel free.
Yeah, I'm David. I have mainly two YouTube channels that I work on. One is a local body cam, police interaction / news channel, where I do FOIA requests from the local police departments and find interesting interactions and basically report on them. Some of these interactions are positive on the side of the police, and some of them are negative on the side of the police. I really don't go one way or the other. I just let the interaction play out and kind of talk about it and my opinions and stuff. And so right now that channel has about 106,000 subscribers, and I get on average about 10 million views a month. Some of my videos have gone viral. viral. There was a video I did on a gentleman, Lamar Bell, out of Rockford, who died from an overdose. He would possibly have lived if the cops called the police, but instead they kept interrogating him and out in the car, asking him, "What did you swallow?" Basically. And even though he had confessed, they didn't call the ambulance for him for quite a while, and he wound up dying. And so I was the first to release that video, and it got millions of views, and it made pretty national news, I would say. And then there's some very positive videos about the police, right? So that's one channel. I also have a channel for indoor gardening, because that's something I do here. You can see my grow tent. Now, this is the grow tent with kale and tomatoes and peppers and all that fun stuff. But I also have a smaller one, which I can show you here, which right now has 4 plants in it.
Nice.
You know, just doing just my med card thing, you know. So I got raided, basically. And I'm going to, now that this case has been adjudicated, I'm going to be getting all that body cam video, because I feel it's inappropriate for me to show everyone else's arrest and not show mine. So I'm getting that video, and there will be a YouTube video about this. But it's very interesting because they came here and there was nothing in the house, except for my personal stash, which was over 100 grams for myself. But they didn't know. They thought this was some sort of large grow operation or something. I think they were tipped off I was possibly swatted because of my YouTube channel, something to that effect. But they showed up here in force, and there was nothing here. Not even the 4 plants that you saw in there. There was literally nothing except for my bong and my box full of weed. So they confiscated that, but they weren't done there. They decided to confiscate my grow lights. That's why I have these really shitty blurple lights in here right now, because they took my lights. They also took my press, because I was I was using my press for my things. And so that was over a year ago, and they were trying to charge me with 2 felonies. First being manufacturing, and the second, and that's a class 3 felony. The second was going to be possession over 100 grams for the weed I had in my personal box here, because it was not in a dispensary container, of course, right? So I found this out because my wife was home. I was off at work because I'm an electrician during the day. Everything at YouTube I do at night. So I was off at work. My wife calls me upset. There's police raiding the house. So I turned myself in because I knew they had a warrant for my arrest at that point. So I showed up with my lawyer, and I sat in jail for a few hours and was able to bail myself out pretty quickly for $2,000. So they didn't have a lot on me, right? Because there was nothing here. There wasn't even, everything was empty. I was in between grows. I was cleaning out for some bugs. I was making sure I had no more fungus gnats going. So it was probably pretty embarrassing for them, I would say. It's going to be a pretty good video, I would say, when I get that out. They did upset me because when I got released from jail, it was a terrible winter storm. And I got released from the police department. And I went to call my wife to have her come pick me up. And they said, "You can't call her. We took her phone." And I said, "Well, why did you take her phone?" And they said, "Well, she didn't want to answer questions." And I said, "Oh, so Fifth Amendment retaliation, right? Because she didn't want to answer questions. She pleaded the fifth. So you retaliated against her by seizing her phone, even though there was nothing in the house, right? Besides, my personal stuff, which was in my locked. This is a locked room. Uh, People don't have access to this, right? It's just mine, you know. So, So a year of going through this, court dates every month, just getting delayed. It came down to the last day. My lawyer struck a deal with their lawyers or whatever, and they decided if I pleaded guilty to the smaller charge of possession over 100 grams, that obviously they would drop the larger charge, and they agreed that I would have a $500 fine, and I needed a drug evaluation, okay, to see if I'm a druggie or whatever. So, but then it got a little interesting because the lawyer comes and he's like, "But we got to decide what to do about your lights because they had my property. It was like an issue, right? That's a whole nother case. We would have had to come back to court." He's like, "What if I get your charges dropped to like 75 and they keep all your stuff?" And I said, "So they want to buy my lights?" He's like, "Yeah, basically they're going to buy your lights for $425." And I'm like, "Well, I think that's a good deal. I'll take that deal." So right now, and my lawyer told me to plead guilty to the felony. He said, "Do that because once you complete paying your $75 and you take and you go and do the rehab, the not the rehab, the drug evaluation." He said right after that, I can walk in here because of the new cannabis laws and have everything expunged from your record like it never happened. He's like, "So just plead to it, and because of the cannabis laws, it's all going to work out." And this was yesterday. So I did what he said. They have my lights and my press now, so now I have to get more lights. But I'm hoping some company sees some of my YouTube videos and just sends me some lights as a sponsorship. And so now I think I can rest easy because they were talking jail time all the way up until this. But I do a lot of videos on criminals, and I see a lot of people doing a lot more dangerous stuff than I ever did, and they're getting probation and all that fun stuff for them. So, so that's kind of the story, and because I got arrested, I wanted to get my video, and I found that I was able to get my video pretty easily, only part of it. So I requested other videos of other arrests, and I got those videos pretty good. And because of that, I kind of developed a relationship with my police department that arrested me because I go there and I get videos of their police officers, and a lot of their police officers are actually really great guys. And I say this with absolute hatred for that department because they arrested me. And so what happened was I did a video on this one officer who I felt so strongly about, was just such who bent over so backwards for this quote unquote criminal. And all the comments that I actually did a GoFundMe for this officer because it was called "Give a Good Cop a Vacation," where we just try to get like $6,000 together to get him a vacation to Florida because he works like 12-hour shifts and people hate him even though he's a good guy. So it's really opened my eyes to a lot of to just there's good cops, there's bad cops, there's good criminals who didn't really do anything, and there's bad criminals who do deserve jail, and it's all gray, you know. Everyone wants it to be black and white, and I see that in the comments in my video, like that criminal's terrible, and then the next comment was, "I kind of like that guy," and it's all gray. So that's
Yeah.
my story. Do you have any questions or?
I did want to add, first of all, I just love what you're doing, and I'm gonna have to check out the police channel because it's something I've recently gotten interested in, and maybe we can talk more about it offline. But
Yeah.
um, I will plug that, folks. If you want to check out the Instagram, the Urban Garden, or the YouTube channels we just mentioned. With growing information and the local police channel, just go into the podcast description and you can find those links. So you have a medical card, right?
Yes.
You had one?
Yes.
W that's just very interesting that this is how this ended up. So it's Interesting. So you're saying it started like with somebody like swatting you, right?
Well, that's what I
Potentially.
potentially. I don't really know. They just showed up at my house. My wife called me before they raided and said there's a lot of cops in our cul-de-sac. And
Yeah.
she didn't know why. And then an hour later, she's like, "Well, they busted it. They knocked heavily on the door with guns." But the truth is, overall, they were pretty good. It was Christmas time. I had wrapped Christmas presents for my kid. They didn't destroy them. They didn't even open them up. They saw I had nothing here. It's My house does not look like a drug den in any way. My wife keeps a very clean house. I take no responsibility because I'm a slum, but my wife keeps an impeccable house. So they walk in, it's beautiful. There's no there's no drugs. There's nothing here. I don't even own a gun. So they had nothing to go on, but they still felt like they had to do something.
I think so I have a few things I gotta get through here. Your story is crazy, dude. So they took your equipment and said you were, well, your rosin thing, they said you were processing. It's like, well, yeah, you are, but that's not illegal. And it's not processing in the sense of any chemicals being involved. It's a physical
No.
force. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody can have a hydraulic press and heating plates.
Yeah. I bought it at Harbor
I mean,
Freight.
it'd be one thing, right? If you had like
Yeah.
a fucking CO2 setup and you were doing like an in loop in your fucking garage. I mean, that I'm just like, we don't let
Right.
people distill alcohol without a license. I think that would be an
Yeah. I
equivalent
think
maybe
the
for cannabis,
the
but that's not what you were doing.
hydrocarbon is illegal. You can't do the hydrocarbon. But I was just pressing. It was a press I got from
Yeah, I mean, you
Harbor
can do
Freight.
that with your hair straightener. Is that illegal?
Right. 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 Right.
So that's fucking crazy. Second, like the biggest thing for me, I want to ask you about your drug evaluation while I pull up other parts of the law. I really think you got, I, I don't know, it'd be interesting. I'd be interested to hear what you think about this because I've actually asked the state about your very situation, and I'd be interested to hear what you think about what they've said to me, given what you've already gone through. But allow
Okay.
me to follow or allow me to pull that up while I ask you, did you go through the drug evaluation that you mentioned?
I just schedule it for next Monday because this all
So
just
what
happened.
is, I know you just scheduled it. So
Yeah.
are you gonna have to like pay for that?
Yeah. So it was interesting. I called the number my lawyer gave me. He gave me a referral. And he said, just call these people. So I called, thinking it was a doctor's office. It's called like A New Hope. That's all I
Mhm.
got. And so I called, and a nice lady answered the phone. I told her what I needed to do. She's like, "Yeah, just come on Monday. Bring 150 in cash, and we'll just take care of it." So I have a feeling she is a counselor of some kind, a therapist who's just going to evaluate me. I think that's what's going to happen. But I have a card, so and I don't do anything else, so I'm not worried about the drug test as long as they're cool with this. Which my lawyer said was fine because I have a card and whatever, it's legal, and
Yeah, you have a
I don't know.
card, and frankly, I look, I'm no lawyer, but I've spoken to a few and I've run this by the state of Illinois themselves. And let's just start with first of all what you're talking about. Let's give people the background. I think that is important. Here are the Illinois laws and penalties. It sounds like you're getting hit with this maybe or somewhere around here. Um, so I can zoom in a bit so it's a little bit bigger. Um,
Yeah, that one. That's it.
yeah,
Possession of 100 to 500. Yeah.
yeah. And they're not talking jail time, right? Because it does say you could
No.
face. Okay, good. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a $75 fine is my actual punishment, and
And
that
they're not charging you for anything growing related other than they mentioned the hash rosin or the rosin press rather,
they
right?
didn't really mention it. That just that I have it, and they're keeping it.
Oh, so it's not a part of your charge. It's not like manufacturing or anything.
Well, that was the other charge was some sort of manufacturing with intent to distribute was the higher felony that got dropped.
Okay,
But it
got
didn't say
dropped.
anything specific about hash or anything. It just
Hmm.
that was the larger one that they dropped as I pled to the lower offense.
Understood.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the other thing that I want to show you, and I'd be interested to hear what your legal professionals would think about this, and I don't know what they can do really at this point, but I've spoken to many attorneys and even the state of Illinois, like I said, about the very situation you just encountered. So first of all, let's take a look at the law. This is going to be a little dry for a second, but hear me out, folks. The possession limit. You can have 30 grams of flour. This is for people that are 21 years of age and are a resident of the state of Illinois. You can have 30 grams of flour, no more than 500 milligrams of THC, 5 grams of cannabis concentrate. And that's again, just if you're a resident and you're 21 years of age or older. If you're a medical cannabis patient, your possession limits are different. And specifically to your situation, this is where I really think you got wronged. For registered qualifying patients, any cannabis produced by cannabis plants grown under subsection B, which is the home grow section, provided any amount of cannabis produced in excess of 30 grams or its equivalent must remain secured within the residence or residential property in which it was grown. That's a really long way of saying, as attorneys have told me, that Illinois is a keep what you grow state as long as the amounts that are in excess of 30 grams are secured in the house. Now, what does that mean? I don't know, but I will say that I ran that question by the state of Illinois, and I'll have this linked. The Cannabis Regulation Oversight Office. I said basically exactly what I just told you. In the past, attorneys have told me that the law allows you to cultivate and possess as much cannabis as you want at home if you are a registered medical cannabis patient in the state of Illinois, provided that you stay within your 5 plant limit as a medical cannabis patient, and provided that all amounts that exceed 30 grams are, quote, secured in the home. Is this a correct interpretation of the law? In other words, is Illinois a keep what you grow state? If not, should medical cannabis patients dispose of all quantities that exceed their possession limit? Right? And this is what they said to me. I want to stress that this is not legal advice, so that's what they led with. But I would interpret both sections as you did. I will check with our legal team. I can't promise a definitive answer. I strongly recommend that individuals with questions about the legality of specific behavior consult with an attorney. So again, they were very clear about the fact that they did not have an answer for me, but they did acknowledge that they interpret the sections as I did and as the attorneys I've spoke to have. So, I mean, I guess they could start to argue about whether or not your cannabis was secured, but
Right.
you shouldn't. 30 grams is not your possession limit. If your card says, and I'm sure it does, 2.5 ounces, my card says 5 ounces. I know some people that have more than that because you can get your allotment increased. So it's like,
Yeah.
I really feel like they fucked you there just because I mean, they're not wrong that for normal adults, those rules apply, unfortunately. And that's what's really fucked up about our law. But you had a medical card.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, so, but what offended me the most was not what they did. It was actually what DCFS did. Okay, because I have a kid. So the scumbaggiest person on earth came here and tried to accuse me of being abusive and neglectful towards my child. Now, when the police arrived here, like I said, my house is very clean. There was a very nice Christmas tree with Christmas presents. There's a ton of food in the house. My daughter, who's in elementary school, has never had a disciplinary issue. She loves everybody. Everybody loves her. Like there's no indication of anything. The fact that so what this scumbag tried to do was charge me and my wife with was indicate us in abuse and neglect. So that had to get brought up to their higher ups, and my wife was exonerated because she didn't have any part of it. But they've indicated me in abuse and neglect, right? And the whole evidence was that there's a cipher lock on my door, which is a button lock because you're supposed to have a lock on the door to get down here. So I didn't have a key lock. I just have a button lock, and he called it a cipher lock.
Well, you're
And
complying with the law. They don't know the
I
law.
know.
Sorry,
And
I'll
then,
pull it up. Keep going.
yeah, that's why I have that lock there. And then also, the first appointment he wanted to come here, my wife has anxiety issues and she didn't want to be here. She freaks out. So she didn't want to be here. So she had her father, the grandfather here. So the guy could come in, talk to the kid, to my kid. He interviewed the grandfather because they needed to interview a relative. So that was his other reasoning why he thought because we were being suspicious because she wasn't there the first interview, which she never said she had to be. But that's their whole evidence. There wasn't any actual evidence of abuse or neglect. That's just what they determined. And I can tell you why this is happening actually, because the DCFS office in this area was responsible for the death of a kid. And two of their employees there are being charged and arrested right now because they neglected a kid who was actually being neglected. So what happened is their employees are arrested. And so now they're going the other direction where they're falsely accusing everyone just to make sure that they're not being accused of neglect themselves. So that's a whole nother story in itself. But that was really what offended me the most. Like, I get the police were doing their job to a certain extent, even though they're uneducated on the laws, which go figure.
Yeah, and
But
just we're for our listeners, we're displaying it right now. Cannabis cultivation must take place in an enclosed, locked space if you're an adult qualifying patient who's cultivating at home. Continue. Sorry.
yeah, no. So that's why there's a lock on the top of the before to get down to this basement. There's a lock with a code on it. So they were describing it as a cipher lock, like as it's an evil kind of lock, you know? Even though you can come up from the basement, it doesn't lock you in. It just blocks you from getting to the grow room, you know, as it should.
It's hilarious that it's described as an evil lock, or like they describe it like that, and then the fact that you even have to have it locked in the first place infers that it's like some dangerous activity that's taking place when really it's no different than the other produce you're growing down there.
Yeah. Um, so that definitely inspired me to grow all this produce down here because I had to grow something. And yeah, it definitely changed.
Did they like try to take your medical card away or anything, or was that really?
No.
It sounds like that was not like I don't think they understand how many rights that affords you, or maybe I misunderstand how many rights a medical card affords you if they just don't take that into account.
Yeah, it was a crazy situation. Um, it ruined Christmas, I should say that.
Yeah, dude, I'm so sorry, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you willing to talk about this shit because we talk about it happening and we point to it in the blotters, but it's hard sometimes to find people that are willing to actually come on and talk about it.
Yeah, I have to smoke. You know, I moved here to be from Florida as to be an electrician, and I stopped smoking for 3 months because I was going to be drug tested. That was before it was legal up here, and my company didn't approve of cannabis and whatever. So I made a real effort to stop smoking. I stopped for 3 months, but I have really terrible nightmares. It's from my childhood, from my past. I don't sleep. There's just so bad. I just can't sleep. So I went 3 months without sleeping, and I didn't even know that was a problem because I had always smoked, basically, you know. And then I stopped, and I thought after a month maybe it would go away because maybe my body's just getting used to it, but it only got worse. So months later, I just had to start smoking again, and that very night I had a great night's sleep, and from then on, I don't have nightmares anymore, and it's 100% from cannabis, and that's the only thing that'll do that, and it's good for me. So that's why I smoke, you know.
Did you say that you did get a piece of your footage of your arrest yet, or no?
Yeah, they only gave me right when I got arrested. I did the
Is it
FOIA
on your
request.
YouTube channel?
No, because it wasn't complete. It was
Okay.
very interesting because all it showed was me walking into the jail and doing my arrest. And that's the moment I said to the officer, "I need to call my wife," and he said, "You can't." And I said to him, Fifth Amendment retaliation. That's the only minute The only conversation out of the whole hour or whatever that they muted. And I
Mm.
know I had that conversation, and I know that moment was that conversation, and that's the part that they redacted from me. And so I went to the lady who's in charge of Emily, who I now have a relationship with because I do FOIA requests all the time with her. And I said, "This is, I can't have this. I need every part of this." She says, the once everything is adjudicated, you'll have a lot more access, and I won't be restricted. I'll give it all to you, right? But until then, this is all I'm able to give you. So now it's adjudicated, right? Yesterday. So I'm gonna go and get the full video of the raid, of my arrest. I'm gonna ask specifically for that section where they cut out, in the audio where he says, "We took her phone." And I said, "Oh, Fifth Amendment retaliation." He's like, "Oh, ooh, right?" Because he didn't know what to say, because he knew I was right, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So that's basically the story. So I'm gonna get the video. It's gonna take a week or two for me to edit it. I'll put it on the YouTube channel. Probably be pretty good. It's gonna say something to the effect of YouTuber gets raided and cops look stupid or something like that because they walked in here to
Yeah.
an empty, everything empty. You
When
know?
you debut it, let me know if you wanna come back on and we can, like, narrate it, so to say, commentate it, if you will.
Yeah, that'll
Um,
be fun.
you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Something like that. So,
yeah. So I don't know, just so you know, man, I've been watching your stuff for a long time under like a personal account, and I've commented here and there, but I just want you to know I really respect what you do. I love the journalistic approach and the honesty and the research you do. Part of what you do and has inspired me to do what I do. The last video I put out, for example, is basically I got 1 minute of an officer getting shot, and then that suspect being hit by a police car and flying across the screen. That's all I got, and there was no audio, there was nothing. And so you'll see it on TikTok here and there, but you don't. There's no context. There's nothing to it. But I was able to find interviews with the family and an interview with the police chief, and find the stories. And I saw a clip of the officer leaving the hospital in a wheelchair because he survived. Because what happened was this guy started just shooting at him, and then he started beating the officer with his gun, right? And then he flees the scene, and they found him, but they found him with the hood of their car, and he
yeah.
went flying.
Damn.
And a lot of times, I hate police brutality, but I do know that if you have an armed felon who's shooting at people, you basically have to take him down. And if they hit him with a car and he survives, it's actually better than them just mowing him down with bullets, right? Because he's running down the streets being crazy with a gun in his hand. They hit him with the car. He survived. Everybody survived. It sucks, but he did it to himself. You can't just jump out of a car and start shooting at an officer and then beat him with your gun and then expect everything to be okay. You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Is it, officer down, but killer gets instant karma? I could play it a little bit.
yes.
Hold
Yeah.
on a second. Um, cool. Let's pull this up. Oh shit. Yeah, this is wild. And then we'll probably wrap this soon, but I just
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
people a taste for the channel here. So boom, boom. I apologize. My screen share is messing up. So
It's a really good video. I actually almost cried a couple times watching it.
At some point during the conversation, Santana exited his vehicle and fired at least 10 shots at Cody, some of which struck him, at least 2, one in each leg. Cody tried to take cover, but the suspect ran after him, catching up to him, and repeatedly struck him in the head and face with the gun after completely emptying the magazine.
It's hard to tell here, but the officer falls down, the suspect chases him, and then begins beating the tar out of him.
CPD has confirmed, and it's in other open sources, that the individual that has been charged by State's Attorney Wright is also a person of interest in a homicide case in Chicago.
That's right, guys. He's the prime suspect in the murder of this girl right here.
That's why I was on the run.
Cody suffered facial fractures, a skull fracture, and a brain bleed in addition to being struck multiple times by gunfire, as I described.
So as you can see, the suspect takes off here, but what you also see is the officer begin to stand up, call for some help for himself, and then begin to stumble back to his patrol car.
Police officers from multiple departments converged on the area in a matter of minutes to assist Cody and search for the suspect. ISP Division of Patrol officers, the ISP SWAT from the Division of Criminal Investigation, and local SWAT teams were activated along with crisis response teams, drones,
Damn,
and
you can
canines
tell
were
he's
also
fucked
deployed.
up. He can barely walk.
He's real
ISP
fucked up.
Our plane in the air and spotted the suspect running across the road, helping officers on the ground close in and apprehend the suspect. Within 3 hours of this bloody attack on Cody, the suspect was taken into custody. By the grace of God, by his own endurance, and with the help of the public and first responders, Cody survived this brutal attack. Thankfully, there were many lights shining that night. Two good Samaritans who are here with me, Travis Rebbe and Lucas Wood,
Nice.
called for help and provided aid to Cody on scene. Well, he was apprehended and he was injured during the course of the apprehension. ISP, we had our plane in the air and spotted the suspect running across the road, helping officers on the ground close in and apprehend the suspect.
Oh,
Sorry.
damn. Yeah, I mean, honestly, bro, if I was pulling it, I doubt they even saw him. That happened quick.
Yeah.
I mean, and if they did, like they were
Sangamon
told,
County
they were
State's
probably
Attorney's Office
responding.
filed formal charges
do this.
against Cristobal Santana. The first count alleging
So you're just
attempted
responding to the
first-degree
gas
murder with
station.
a
You don't fucking know what's
25-year
going
to
on.
life
You don't
firearm
expect
enhancement.
people to just
Count
be running
2
down the fucking
alleges
street like
attempted
that.
first-degree murder
And
of
it's raining.
criminals. Count 3 alleges
I mean,
aggravated
yeah.
battery with a firearm. Count 4.
It definitely is unfortunate that happened. I mean, I don't think an officer, that's obviously not taught as a technique. So like you just said, I'm still going to be critical of the officer, but like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I could see how that you're just responding to an officer was just beaten, somebody's on the run. They've
Yeah.
last been seen probably at that gas station. And so you're just whipping in there. I mean,
Yeah, and he did it to himself. You can't just go around shooting people, I mean, it's just that's what happens,
right.
Like
I mean,
he-
what I will say is like he's lucky that he is in America because I don't know how
Yeah.
cops respond in other countries. I mean, obviously we've all heard of the ways that cops can respond in America. It's kind of like a meme now where cops just shoot you. I mean, it's literally a joke in Grand Theft Auto 5. If you play as Franklin, cops will just start shooting you. The black character, for folks that don't know, they'll
Right.
just like if you're just standing in front of them, they'll just take out their gun and be like, "Hey, what are you doing, boy?" Stuff like that. But so we're
Yeah.
all aware of that. But I guess what I'm saying is like ideally in America, even if you like, it seems like in America, let's just say that if you even commit a horrific act, yeah, we're not just gonna like sit there and shoot you on the ground. Like, yeah, so he got hit by the car, but then they apprehended him and took him to
Yeah,
jail.
they took him to the hospital, actually.
Right. So
You
I
know?
mean, that's like, America. It's like,
But the next video I put out is going to be a video about an officer that just throws this guy to the ground who was in handcuffs and walking just fine. He's like, "Oh, why'd you fall?"
oh,
Right?
I've seen that video. That's fucked up.
So I have the full video now that nobody else has. I have the before and after.
Really?
Yeah, so that's my next video. That officer was charged for that. But
Shit.
why did he do it? Right? He did it because the suspect was beating his wife, and the officer took that very personally. Now, obviously, the officer needs to control himself, but it's like vigilante justice, and I know there's going to be people on my comments that are like, "Yeah, he deserved it." But I don't, you can't do that in this society. That's not what we do. The court, he's being jury, judge, and executioner at that point, and that's not what we do, right?
Right.
So, but there's going to be people that applaud that officer when I tell them that the guy was, on the run from beating his wife out in the front yard, right? So, it gets gray again. It's not all black and white anymore.
Yeah, maybe this can be our cliffhanger. We'll show what you were just talking about, and they can stay tuned for the video you make. It's just a 39-second video. So,
New video shows the moment a Waukegan police officer
is this
threw a
what you?
handcuffed civilian
Is this
Yeah.
Waukegan? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
to the ground.
Oh, you fell, dude. Why'd you fall? Why'd you fall?
CBS 2 obtained body camera video of the incident, which happened back on December 14th. You can see Officer Richard Tabus shoving a person to the ground. The Lake County prosecutor says the situation was under control and there was no need for the use of force. Tabus is now charged with felony official misconduct and battery to a civilian. Police say the suspect was being arrested for domestic battery.
Yeah, the police had only released that clip. Now I got the rest of it. And it's gonna come out this week, hopefully.
So you're saying the full context makes more, or it doesn't make it right, but it makes you can
No,
see where the
it
emotions.
just adds context, and it's gonna make people be like, that guy deserved that. And I know they're gonna say that, and then I know people are gonna feel like I do, like it doesn't matter if he deserved that. It's not his job to do that.
Right. That's
You
kind
know,
of where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
I get what you're saying too, though, because it's like when you deal with somebody that's like a real piece of shit, it's hard not to
Yeah.
give in to that like urge to kind of deliver that justice. But like you say, there's the other side of it where it's like we kind of got to let the.
I mean, maybe she
Fortunately,
was
the
beating
system
him
fit.
up. Maybe she was
Right.
beating him up in the yard. Maybe he's a victim twice. I don't even know.
Who knows? Well,
That's what we have juries and courts and evidence for.
that's kind of where I was leading. Yep. So, well, hey man, I could see us doing this a lot more in the future because, like I said, I've really just gotten into this genre. I'm going to subscribe to both channels right now, folks, and you should go into the podcast description and do the same. Support your local creators, especially when they're standing up for transparency in the law, which it sounds like you're doing on this police blotter. What's it called here? The body cam reality news if you're just searching it up. But
Yeah,
again,
body cam reality news.
the link is in the description. I think that's probably the easiest way to get there. So folks, I hope you
Yep.
found as much value in this episode as I did. Any last words before we go?
No, there's a Gmail email in there on that channel. If anyone wants to contact me, have questions or have an incident that needs to be brought to light, just let me know.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Well, I'll be in touch. Okay.
All right, I'll talk to you.
Yep. Take care, folks. Bye.